CB. So I decided to make this video just for you. So this is a video that nobody but you and me will see. So I really am glad that you reached out to me. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Could have been the night before. Well, anyway, whenever it was, when you were texting me that you were in Honolulu. So that's pretty cool. But something you said in your text made me decide I wanted to send this to you just to encourage you, truly. So I'm just going to share with you a really super easy way to bring up the subject of the gospel with people. So basically, what it was, or what it is. Okay, so a while back, probably more than a year ago, well, definitely longer than a year ago, because I saw that Penn Jillette video a few years ago. But what I started doing was anybody that comes into my house, like a repair person or salesperson, before they leave, I say, "Hey, do you have another minute? I got to ask you something." I ask this to everybody that comes into my house, and they go, "Sure." And so I say, "Okay, I'm going to give you a two-part question in having to do with a hypothetical scenario." So then I say to them, "Okay, so prepare repair person, or whoever it is I'm talking to, and it could be friends as well. It doesn't have to be just somebody, but basically, this works on anybody. Okay, and this is what I used in Deanna's case." I say, "Okay, so let me ask you this. Suppose you and I are next door neighbors, and one evening you come home, pull into your driveway, and I know that you've been on a trip, or something. You've been gone for a while. So I see you pull in, and, being the social kind of guy I am, I turn off my lawnmower and I walk over to talk to you. And so after you tell me about your trip and all that, you say, 'Well, look, I'd love to talk more, but I haven't had any sleep for the last 48 hours, and I'm going to go straight to bed.' And then the final thing you say to me is, 'And nobody better wake me up for any reason.' And I say, 'Okay, fair enough. Sleep well.' And that's that. Until a few hours later, I look out my window and I see that your house is on fire. Okay, so the first half of this two-part question is, should I wake you up given that you told me that nobody had better wake you up for any reason, right? Now, everybody I've asked that question has replied with the obvious answer, well, of course you should wake me up, right? I mean, nobody in their right mind would say, yeah, just let him burn up. All right. So I call you and I go, man, wake up, get out of your house. Your house is on fire. And then I run out my front door to go across to make sure you get out okay. And as I'm running across our yards, to my embarrassment, I discover that what I saw wasn't really your house on fire at all. But the backyard neighbors had a bonfire and it was reflecting in your windows. And when I looked out the window of mine, I saw what I thought to be this fire at your house. So the deal is I truly, truly did think your house was on fire. This wasn't a prank or anything like that. And so you weren't really in danger, but I thought you were. So here's the second part of that two-part question. Would you be angry with me for waking you up, even though it ended up that your house wasn't actually on fire? Now, I've asked this again to many people, and one guy had to think about it for a little bit, but even he, in the end, sided with everybody else that I've ever asked. And they said, no, I couldn't be mad at you for that because you really thought I was in danger. You cared about my life and my well-being. So because your intentions were out of concern for my life, I couldn't be mad at you. So what that does is it sets it up perfectly, because then I say, well, the reason I'm asking you this question is because I truly, truly think that you are in danger, and I want to let you know about it. And most of the time, even before I say that, I'll say, well, have you ever heard of Penn and Teller? And I tell them about Penn, who says that even though he's an atheist, he doesn't respect anybody who thinks that somebody might be in danger, but it's not worth telling them about it. So I briefly allude to that video that an atheist says you should tell me if you think it's true. So since you've just told me that you wouldn't be mad at me if you were, even if I was wrong about your house being on fire, um, I tell him that and I say, okay, so here's the reason. I think that you're in trouble. I think we were all in trouble at some point, and some of us still are. And so then I'll just go through, I'll say, so here's why I think you're in trouble. Do you think you're a good person? That's the key. It's called the good person test. And most people, I mean, even according to Proverbs, it says man is very quick to pronounce his own goodness. That's my paraphrase. But anyway, but everybody says, yeah, I'm pretty good, haven't killed anybody, blah, blah, blah. So I say, well, let me give you a little test to see if that's true. And then I just take them through a few, just 3 or 4 of the 10 Commandments. So I'll say, okay, have you ever told a lie? And this is easy. This is really easy, Lyle. It really is. I mean, CB. So somebody will say, most people say, well, yeah, I've told a lie. Who hasn't, right? And I say, okay, so what do you call a person who tells lies? A liar. Okay. Second question, have you ever stolen anything? Even though it's, irregardless of the value, um, even if it's small, have you ever stolen anything? And you and I have, because we stole Chunky Boys. I mean, we stole Chunkies, making us Chunky Boys. So, have you ever stolen anything? Well, most people say, yeah, I have. So, what do you call somebody who steals things? A thief. So I go, what does that make you? They go, a thief. And I go, no, a lying thief. Anyway, just injects a little humor in there. Okay. Third question I'll ask them is, have you ever taken God's name in vain? Like using God's name in the place of a word to express disgust or surprise or whatever? Well, yeah, Well, then I explain that God's name is so holy that the Jews won't even write it down because it's so holy. But yet we use it as a replacement for the, filth word. Instead of using that, we use God's name. Then I'll usually ask him, do you love your mom, whether she's still alive or not? Well, yeah, of course. Well, would you ever use your mom's name as a cuss word in the place of a filth word? Oh, no. And I ask him, why not? Well, because I love and respect her. And I go, yeah, exactly. But yet you take the name of the God who gave you a mom and created everything that you see and know, and you use his name as a cuss word. Anyway, and then the final one I'll say, have you ever looked with lust? And I'll explain how Jesus said to the Pharisees, the religious people of his time, you've heard it said that you should not commit adultery. But I say to you that if you just look at a woman with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery there with her in your heart, whether you've gone through with the action or not. God sees what's in here, right? He knows that you really want to, but whether you have the means to with your body or not doesn't matter. God knows what your thoughts are. So anyway, so I say, okay, look, person, you've just admitted to me, and I'm not judging you. You just told me that you're a lying, thieving, blasphemous adulterer at heart. And those are just, 4 of the 10 commandments. So if God were to judge you just on those commandments that you've obviously admitted to breaking at least 4 of, would you be innocent or guilty? And everybody says, well, you got me, guilty. And then it's like, well, then would you be going to heaven, do you think, or hell? And everybody gets the idea that God is perfect and holy. And so, well, I've broken his commandments, and they usually go hell. Some people will say, well, heaven, because God is love and he would never send anybody to hell, which has a whole nother thing, a whole description of itself, because you relate it to an earthly court. And if a judge says, well, I know you raped and murdered this woman, but, you've told me that you've been good and you're really sorry and you'll never do it again. And you think I'm a loving judge, so, I'll let you go. Well, a good judge wouldn't do that. A good judge would say, well, it's good that you're sorry and all that, and you'll never do it again, but that doesn't erase the fact that you've killed someone. So the sentence still stands. But anyway, so, you describe to them, well, does it concern you that you would be in hell? And some people will say yes. And those are the people that you can then tell them about what Jesus did. That we did the sin, we did the crime, but he paid the fine for us. And the people that say no, well, I wouldn't always bother unless you can kind of get them to see that they're somewhat concerned. Because here's the deal: if I walked up to a stranger's door and knocked on it one night and said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I just sold everything I have, and here's the cure to Grolinsen's disease," and that person would go, "What? Grolinsen's disease? You're a nutcase. Get out of here," because they don't even know what it is. But if I walk up to a person and knock on their door and say, "Hi, you don't know me, but I saw you in the mall the other day, and I saw these splotches on your arm, and here's a picture of what Grolinsen's disease is. It's deadly, by the way, and it looks, look at these. It looks just like your arm. Do you agree?" And they go, "Yeah, it looks just like my arm." Well, Grolinsen's disease is what you've got, and it's deadly, and you've only got from the looks of it, about 2 weeks to live. And they go, "Oh no, oh no," and then they're all freaked out. But then you say, "Wait a minute, though. Here's the cure." What do you think they would think about that cure? They would grab it in a heartbeat and thank you up and down. But the first person doesn't think they have the disease. Well, then they don't think that the cure makes any sense. Well, people that don't think they've sinned against God, well, then the cure, which is Jesus' death on the cross to pay for our sin, doesn't make any sense to them. But if the good person test gets them to see that, wow, I guess I am sinful. Oh my goodness, is there a chance I can go to hell? Oh my goodness. Then when you tell them about Jesus, then it makes sense. So, all of this to say that, CB, you can do this. It's not that hard. You just start with, I found it incredibly positive to start with this whole, "Hey, can I ask you a question? Just a hypothetical thing." And then you do that 2-part question about if we were next door neighbors. As soon as they say, "Well, yeah, I wouldn't be mad at you even if you were wrong," because then it's like, well, hey, I'm telling you the gospel. If you think that I could be wrong, you still said it was bad to not say, what it was, because you really thought it to be true. So then I say, I truly, truly think that Christianity is true. And thank you for listening to me. And then they can't say a thing about it because they've just admitted that it's right for you to do it, even if you might be wrong. And so I just love that approach. I absolutely love that approach. Kind of came up with that a little bit on my own. And, well, actually a big bit on my own. So anyway, man, I hope you'll at least consider what I've said, and let's talk if you want, but I want you to be able to share the gospel. And I'm not taking anything away from your story or your situation that you use, but we've got to understand that people are going to hell, and not all of them are going to listen to us the story, but everybody's going to listen to the fact that, oh wow, I've sinned. So you have to use that law, the 10 Commandments, as a mirror for them to look into and go, oh wow, wow, I got some spinach on my tooth. It's like, oh wow, I've uh, alienated God, and that law helps them to see it. So taking them through the good person test is really, really a good thing. But you know what? Just start with the 2-part question. Just practice it. Hey, pretend like you and I are next door neighbors. And you come home one night and I talk to you and you say, I'm going to go in and go to sleep and nobody better wake me. And then I see your house on fire. So would you, you told me not to wake you. The first part is, should I wake you? And everybody's going to say, yes, of course. And then the second thing is, well, then I realized it was just a reflection, but I truly, truly thought it was real. Would you be mad at me for waking you? Most everybody's going to say no. And then you're in, man. And say, well, look, I got something to share with you. I think there's a situation where you're in trouble. And it's because we have a God that created everything and said that, he cannot have any sin in his presence. And the good person test, you run them through it. It's really awesome, and it really works. So let's continue the conversation if you'd like. I would love to help you be a good, um, you know, presenter of the gospel. Remember, when God told Moses that he had to talk to Pharaoh, Moses said, "Oh, but I can't talk. I'm not a very good talker." And you said something along that line last night about not having a lot of Bible learning. But man, it's not hard. It's easy, and you just gotta You just got to say, what's more important, how I feel on the inside about not being embarrassed or that person going to hell? And when you think about it like that, man, it's hard. It's really hard to say, I don't want to do this. So, CB, I love you. You know that. And let's talk later if you want. But this is your personal video from CB MonoPud, number, whatever number I am. I don't remember. All right. Love you, man. Bye.